All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the North Wasco County School District 21 regular school board meeting. Today is Thursday, August 25th, 2022. If everyone could please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you for that. Next on our agenda is a review and revision of the agenda. Any of the directors have a revision for tonight? I do have one, and that is to move item 11A. That's an action item for the approval of the cooperative agreement for the cross-country and softball programs. We will be moving that earlier up in the agenda, just after item number 6, our consent agenda. And that is so AD Broth can get out there and support our Riverhawks athletes that are in action tonight. Any issue moving that further up in the agenda? All right, seeing no objection, then that is the order that we'll do. Next is the reading of the mission and vision statement. Director Lopez, would you read those tonight?
Mission statement. Graduating all students be college and career ready, challenging, inspiring, and empowering them to be healthy and productive citizens. Vision statement. North Wasco is a premier school district. We provide students with rigorous and relevant education with schools performing academically in the top 5% of the nation. Our students are inspired by a talented, innovative, and highly effective staff that value continuous professional growth. Our district graduates citizens who are ethical and motivated to achieve their limitless potential. North Wasco is fully embraced by the community, reflecting its health and well-being.
Director Lopez. Next is our student and staff recognition for this month. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Bernal so we can hear about our new leadership staff.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to present some of our additional staff who have come on board, and they are all here. So our new Director of Teaching, Learning, and Assessment, Dr. Lauren Merklin, she's in the back. Stand up, say hi. She's like, do I stand? Yes, there you go. All right. And then Ryan Laduser is over here. He's our new middle school principal for the Dalles Middle School. And then we have Elizabeth Ross Miller, our new principal of Dry Hollow, and she's in the back. And we're really, really excited to have all of them come aboard. We are fully staffed on our administrative team and excited to get the school year underway. And welcome to the 3 of you. We're glad you're here.
Welcome to our new admin. Look forward to working with you guys this year. Next is our consent agenda. And this meeting, it consists of the school board meeting minutes from the July 21st, 2022 meeting, and then also an updated personnel report. Any comments or revisions on that, directors? I just had one thing to note on the personnel report on page 1 under the new hires for licensed staff. Michael Atkins is 2 rows on there. I'm assuming we don't have 2 Michael Atkins, just a singular one. So just a small revision on that. Any other revisions or comments from directors? If not, I will entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda. All right, so we've got a motion to approve the consent agenda with the revision to the personnel report, and seconded by Director Jones. Any further discussion on that? Not seeing none. So with that, we'll go to a vote. Director Lopez. Director Rasmussen, who's not here. Director Jones. Director Nelson. Director Stevens.
Aye.
Director Richardson. Chair votes aye as well. All right, next, we're going to item 11A. So I'll invite AD Bros to tell us about the cooperative agreement.
Good evening, Dr. Bernal, board directors. Oh, sorry about that. I come tonight seeking cooperative approval for two schools in Wasco County to join our high school varsity and JV cross-country and softball programs, South Wasco County. They do not field a team and do for high school. We have done cooperative agreements with them for several years. With us reclassing to 4A this year, the cooperative agreement was up for renewal. Both schools reached out to me. I put it through the Tri-Valley Conference ADs for approval. They approved that. I presented it to Dr. Bernal and you guys for final approval to move forward to allow those athletes to participate in the Riverhawks athletic program.
Any questions for AD Bros? All right, if not, then I will entertain a motion for the approval of the cooperative agreement.
I'll make a motion to approve the sports co-op agreement with Dufur School District and South Wasco County School District for cross country and softball.
Second.
All right, so I've got a motion from Director Stevens to approve the district cooperative agreement request as presented, allowing South Wasco County School District and Dufur School District students to compete in cross country and softball competitions as part of the Dallas High School sports program. And that was seconded by Director Jones. Any further discussion or questions for our AD? Seeing none, then we'll go to a vote. Director Lopez. Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Nelson. Director Stevens.
Aye.
Director Richardson.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you, Mr. Brost, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks. JV volleyball won their opening match tonight against Pendleton. JV's going right now. Varsity will be at 6:30. So I appreciate you guys allowing me to present first so I could get out of here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Next is just a review of the board action calendar. So looking ahead to September and then October, probably the thing to look out for is we'll probably either probably next week send out an email with dates to start getting a date on the calendar for our retreat in October. So just keep an eye out for that. But any questions just kind of with the upcoming months, obviously with school starting on Monday, there's going to be a lot of back to school events and other opportunities for us to get out and see students in schools. So keep an eye out for that. But any questions on that in terms of the upcoming months? Okay. Then we'll move on to our subcommittee reports, starting with the scholarship committee. Director Stevens, any updates?
We don't meet again until school begins.
Okay. What about staying with Director Stevens, community outreach?
We meet tomorrow.
Okay. Wellness committee, Director Richardson.
I don't have a report this evening.
Okay. Wasco County Forest Collaborative, Director Nelson.
I have nothing to report.
Okay. The OSBA Legislative Policy Committee, Director Richardson.
Thank you, Chair Aparicio. Yes, the OSBA LPC met, and the biggest announcement is the Columbia Gorge ESD will be hosting the Legislative Roadshow on October 13th at 6 p.m. It's at the CGCC Lecture Hall. You can RSVP to Susan Valley at the ESD. That's for our Gorge region. So that's an opportunity to hear about the OSBA legislative agenda. The Capitol at that time. So our RSVP to Susan, I think you can get dinner if you want and you RSVP October 13th, 6.
All right, thank you for that. And lastly, the D21 Ed Foundation, Director Jones.
Nothing to report.
Okay, that concludes our subcommittee reports. We'll move on to staff reports, starting with the D21 Education Association. And the North Wasco Education Support Professionals.
Why not?
So good evening, Dr. Bernal and directors. I am Charlene Bonham, and along with Sylvia Brock, we are the North Wasco ESP's co-presidents. That is North Wasco Education Support Professionals. And our departments include clerks, transportation, nutrition, maintenance, custodial, many instructional assistants that help in all areas of education, assisting teachers and students. This year we have 20 plus new ESPs, which is wonderful. We had the opportunity to have a new employee orientation, and we were allowed to have the time we needed to go over a lot of the valuable information, and we really appreciate that. That was very, very helpful. We also had negotiations and bargaining in the spring, and it took effect this school year. This is the best contract that we've ever had for our members. And this was done in what I call a record amount of time. Usually it takes a long time to get it finalized and ratified. And the district was very accommodating and supportive of us. We also, the North Wasco ESPs also have a labor management committee. And this is where we meet monthly with Dr. Bernal, Cara Black, and Sandra Harris. And we talk about issues and concerns that come up from our employees and all. We're thankful, we're thankful to have the opportunity this year to come and talk and let you guys know what is going on with the ESPs, what we're doing and all. And we feel we have a great working relationship with Dr. Bernal and her team, and they've been very cooperative and open to us for meeting anytime, even on short notices at times. We look forward to a wonderful school year, and thank you guys for your time.
I'm pretty much just going to second everything she said, except that I'm Jody Ketchum. I'm the D21 Education Association president, so I represent the licensed staff. We are grateful as well for the new contract. We feel that it was a way that we were able to recruit a lot of new staff. The new teacher orientation was 48 new teachers, or licensed staff, so it was pretty amazing. We also are really grateful that just as of recently, Cara and facilities were able to negotiate some portable AC units with the new OSHA laws and trying to keep students and staff safe. We are very excited about that, as I was just spent 12 hours in a 100-degree room. It was not fun. So I'm anxious for those portable AC units to come and see that the kids will be able to learn better. They'll be able to be more focused. So we're excited for that. We're very grateful for that. We also are looking forward to open houses and getting parents into the buildings again, getting volunteers into the buildings again. We're very, very excited to welcome the kids back and welcome all the parents back. So we thank you as well for what an awesome administrative staff you've been able to hire. So we're very excited to work with each of them. I think that's it. Thank you, guys.
And all of the alumni that we have in the district
Yes.
from the Dallas High School.
Yeah.
And some Watonka alumni too, that we have here working in the district.
I did think of one question for you guys. Are you going to be doing the where a board member adopts a school again, as you did pre-COVID, or do you know, or you know what, I'm going to plant that question. You can get
We'll
back.
add it to the retreat agenda. It's a good
Okay,
question.
excellent. Yeah, we
Yeah.
would love to have a board member assigned to each school that we could get to know and have them be in the building on a regular basis. And that really is it this time. Sorry. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so next on our agenda is a new business section with our presentations and reports. And the first one tonight is a presentation on student representation on the school board. And that will be presented by Director Richardson.
Thank you, Chair Aparicio. Do we have the slide available? It's in the packet. 2 slides. And I can start talking if you want to. There you go. So this idea came up at the summer OSBA conference. They had about a 3-hour session where they talked about student advisors to the board. They invited students who had been advisors to their boards and then talked about the process and the reasons why. So this is a very condensed presentation of that. I thought it would be a wonderful idea. So what is the student advisor to the board? It's a selected student representative who serves 1 year as a board advisor. They come to board meetings. They really provide a different service than the student reports that we received. That I'm really looking forward to getting started again next month. There are some good models in the state of Oregon. Lake Oswego, Tigard Tualatin, and North Santiam were the ones that brought students to the OSBA meeting and talked about their experience. They have written ARs and applications for students that we could look at modifying if we're interested in this idea. So the process from here, I believe, is if you are interested in this and the board is supportive, we could form a subcommittee to talk about how the AR will be written, what the application should be. And then we should go and talk to Principal Evans and other teachers who may be a champion for this idea and announce that opportunity to students. That announcement would come out in the spring after we've approved the paperwork, essentially. We would publish and receive applications. All of the school boards who had a student representative actually interviewed all of the students who had applied in a low pressure interview, but they did it with business casual and 2 members of the board who asked the students questions. They thought it was a very positive experience. And then the board will appoint a champion, and there should be a teacher champion as well who provide a mentorship to the student, talk to them about board conduct, what Robert's rules are, for example, and some orientation to the board, which happens later in the summer. So if we went with this idea, this would be summer of 2023, and then the student would begin service in the fall of 2023. Do you have the next slide over there? So what's in it for students? Well, these students really talked about how cool it was to provide their perspective for what it's like walking the halls of this school where we're trying to write policy that actually impacts them. As I mentioned, it provides more than the student report. It's really the day-to-day experience of the student voice there. It's a chance for students to learn about board service and civic duty. They can develop projects for students. And so one school, the students came up with the idea for free to play. So they waived athletic fees and fees for after school programs like band. The initial proposal was denied by the board, and then they appointed a financial advisor, and the students came back with a proposal that then was approved. So it was quite a learning process for them and something they were really proud of. They can gain experience, the references and letters of recommendations. These students spoke about how when they started their board service, they were maybe interested in civic duty. And each one of them talked about how they were going into college and they were going to major in policy or political science, which I thought was really cool. So for us, it's an opportunity to hear directly from the student voice about our work. It can help us to develop a civic mentoring opportunity for students and a way for us to give back in a different way to the community and expand our communication channels and transparency. So I will defer to you, Chair Aparicio, about next steps. I would be more than happy to help lead a subcommittee to explore this further.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. That's something that's definitely intriguing. Any other thoughts from the board? I think it would definitely look to figure out how to kind of get this process going this year so that we could in the fall of 23 then start having a student honor up here with us. But any initial thoughts from the board just on the concept in general?
Yeah, I have this, I remember it came up when I was chair, and you and I talked about it. And did some of this investigation that you've done. So I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea. Having a student representation on the board is good for the student, great for the board.
They don't put on board business, but they may render an advisory opinion that we could enter into our minutes and comment. And they do oftentimes participate in executive session because that is part of a board's function and it's a very good learning experience. So if the student is open to it and they get some orientation to that process with a couple of exceptions for content, it's a nice opportunity for them to learn.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I like the idea. I know it's been talked about before and interested in getting something going if we could.
All right, sounds like overall, I think we're, unless someone that hasn't spoken is not supportive, but it sounds like overall support for this. So I would say next steps, Director Richardson, if you want to kind of take lead on that and start putting some of this together, I think we would probably need to, if we establish an actual committee, we would need to take action at a future meeting. So maybe if you can kind of get some of those items pulled together, and then we'll add it to the agenda to officially kick it off next month, and we'll get a subcommittee formed and kind of the parameters in that. Okay. All right. Our next report is a wrap up on our summer programming. So we'll have Mr. Williams from TDHS. And are you guys together? Yeah. And then Dr. Tuskewicz from the Educational Success and Innovative Programs.
Gonna swap the order. I'm gonna go first and talk about the fun enhancement stuff. So we have a slideshow. One addition that's not in the slideshow is that we also did fund some scholarships for the Arts Center that we just got numbers back from those. So they're not included in this report, but they just reported to us and gave us back the scholarships that they had accepted from the Arts Center. So that's another area that we helped. Okay, so we had a variety of summer programs going on this year, and we had a lot of fun. So TDHS SOAR, which he's going to be talking about, it was a course dealing with our students from the high school and the high school age that we're working on credit recovery, et cetera, and I'll let him get into that data. But we also had the RISE program, which is our K-8 elementary program through middle school. And I was able to head that up and work with that staff through the summer. And I just have to really give kudos to the amazing secretarial and the food services secretarial, et cetera. They were wonderful. And the kids came and we had a quick little meeting about respecting the building, respecting each other, and they did a great job. So the kids were wonderful all summer long. Let's see. We also offered additional things. For example, the new Edmentum curriculum, which you guys adopted for our online program. We allowed kids a no harm, no foul, try it out if you would like. And some of the data is represented in here. We have had some more students finish since this date. And I will give a final report once we're completely done closing it out. We've decided to give some students extensions who are in Innovations Academy all the way to the end of the first trimester, so they can actually come back and complete the class as they get through. And so we'll let you know how that goes. The overall opinion was that they like the slideshows with the interactive activities better than the videos. So that was kind of a road turn. There were a couple of kids who came 2 or 3 times and said, I like Acellus better, and never came back. So we really don't know how much they really tried the Edmentum program, but we already have kids who've completed the online orientation, which is 7 questions, and it teaches them about plagiarism, downloading things, uploading things, communicating with the teacher, those basic strategies you need to be successful in the program. As soon as they've done that, then we give them the classes that they're looking for. So you'll notice that there are some students that started the orientation and dropped. Some students that finished the orientation, started classes and dropped. And some students that finished the orientation, started classes and are continuing or have completed credits. So that's pretty neat. And we did have some middle school kids who came in and got some skill building. And that was kind of fun to watch as well. We did have less funding than last year, but we didn't have less fun. So a couple of things that happened were, and we're going to the next slide. We had, actually, I just talked about this, so go ahead and click to the next page. So you can see the rise. We had 17 teachers and 25 support professionals, including myself, and others that were working with them. And we had 222 regular attenders. And I think that's a pretty darn good number. And then you can see the breakdown by grade. We did have nice class sizes, and those numbers don't represent like every single day. Some of the kids were in multiple classes, but we kind of looked at the grade and then how many classes they attended during the day. So they were doing music, they were doing PE, they were doing all of these different things. And so they were attending multiple things all day long for 4 days a week through the summer. And they did report significant growth and preparation in the kids that came for next year. A lot of kids are ready to go for the fall that were not ready to go at the end of the school year. Okay, next one. The data on the trial classes. And so we have one online, we had one of our online teachers, Mrs. Runciman, and I want to just remind the board, we did the hiring. We have Mr. Miller is an online teacher. He lives in Gresham and he teaches and is certified in language arts, social studies, health, and CTE. And Mrs. Runciman is certified in math and science, and she's certified in language arts, and she is completing her demonstration work for social studies as well. So we are fully covered in the core except for PE by those two teachers for all of our online offerings. And then we have Paige Walker, who is certified K-8 and working primarily with our elementary kids and our middle school kids who need like a self-contained situation because they're not quite ready for all the different teachers. So she works with our younger middle school and our K-5. Let's see. Mrs. Runciman, one of the big differences with this NSLS is that the work is graded and the students are given feedback. She shows them a rubric of what they're expected to do and helps them to know how they need to improve things. One of the big differences is we do allow students to redo things as many times as they need to get it up to level so that they can then turn the work in for a proficient or higher evaluation. The Orient class, and I mentioned about the orientation class, which represents most of the activities needed to be successful. Okay. Next class. So there were 20 there's a few things we're doing, and you're going to notice it also with Innovations Academy is because everything's new. I've been doing orientations myself, meeting with families and students and having them come down, and I talk to them and I say, here's the deal. This is what's different. Here's how we're doing it. 28 students came to orientation with me and actually did that. Of those 28, we gave them all the orientation class. And then you can see the numbers kind of decrease after that. There were 17 who completed the orientation class. So 11 immediately just did not even finish the class. And then we had courses that they were completing during the orientation. There were 17. And so you can kind of see the data as it goes along and the comments that were made by the students in terms of liking the non-video situation. Next one, please. The enhancement options. There were some interesting things that happened. We called them camps. So camp discovery, golf camp, the different activities, music and performing arts camp, give the kids a feel of day camp activities. We scheduled almost all of them in the afternoon so that students would not have to choose between academics and fun. They would be able to go to the morning rise sessions and then be able to go to the fun and enhancement in the afternoon. The only different one was golf, which was all day activities for some of the kids every week on Thursdays. And then we had Birdie Basics, which was really cute little 5- and 6-year-olds who came to Watonka and learned golf. It was very cute. I enjoyed seeing them. So go ahead and click on. So Camp Discovery, we started out in a partnership with another organization and the Discovery Center and Lewis and Clark University. And the other organization 2 weeks before the start of camp said, I'm sorry, we can't coordinate this. So we did. And so we reached out to the RISE teachers that were working and some of the other D21 teachers and said, we need some camp counselors. And we had amazing turnout. And many of those teachers came along and just created some really fun and amazing things. Lewis and Clark took over the second week session, and we did the first, third, and fourth week sessions. They were 4-day sessions from 1 to 4 every day. Lisa Caseberg helped us with transportation. It was a really very successful program, and we had a lot of repeat students coming. We started out trying to do by grade, so like little kids, and then we had too many families and people, so we just divided up into groups within the days that were by age based, so that we could have siblings come and families come, and we allowed students to come more than 1 week. So when you look at the data, there were 94 individual students but many of them came multiple weeks, and that was pretty cool. And so you can see we had 27 students in the first session, 27 students in the second session, 48 in the third, and 38 in the fourth. And the teachers, we basically had them at approximately 8 students per teacher so that they would have a nice class size. They did scavenger hunts, and we worked with Lisa Commander from the Discovery Center and their education lead, Laura, and we really developed some really great things. We had people from the Native American community come and do storytelling. We did a lot of really interesting things. And so just if you know any kids that went, just ask them how it was. Next one, please. Mick Kelly headed up the music and performing arts, and he and I were talking the other day about really wanting to be doing a little bit more overarching and like put on a show at the end, put on a concert at the end and kind of coordinate. But this year it was a first try. And so they had about 27 or 28 students that came a variety of weeks over the time and did the different camps that you can see there. Improvisation was literally like somebody'd start playing and everybody would start jamming and see what came out musically. The choir camp was for the students who were vocal. Jazz and brass band camp was for students who are already playing instruments and already involved in band so that they could get a little more advanced. Concert band was one that was kind of intermediate. You needed to know how to play an instrument, but you could try some of the higher level work. And then the drumline camp, kids really love. Like my son plays the drums. I know what that's like. And then the music tech camp was for students to learn about microphones and sound systems. And we can use them in board meetings someday, maybe, but we're learning about all of that kind of audio visual capturing of the sound, the balancing of the music, all of those auditory things. And then golf camp. So as I said, we had birdie basics and we had junior golf, and those were, they had 5 sessions of the large, and they ended up doing just 4 sessions of the younger kids because there was one week that the teacher got sick. So it's 4 and 5. Okay. And then we have some lessons learned and plans for the future. I came on last minute because Scott Whitbeck was in charge, and then he got a job and went somewhere else. And so they said, Kim, can you help us out? And I was like, absolutely. But we had things that had been put in place by Mr. Whitbeck, and we had things that were put in place by teachers, and we had things. So I corralled and did my best, and we had a lot of conversations, and I've met with staff afterwards and debriefed and said, what are your suggestions? What would make things better? I talked with the secretaries, the custodians, nutrition, et cetera, and we have some ideas. So we think that there are efficiencies that can be incorporated into having a solo application. So when you go in, you click on your kid's grade, it'll say in the morning, they can do this. In the afternoon, you can do this. And we just have them all in one application. And at the same time, we ask for the medical, we ask for the release, we ask for the permission, we tell them what they need to bring, we tell them locations and the transportation all at once, because the number of emails I had to send as I thought of each thing we needed to do confused parents sometimes. And that was hard. We don't want to do that. We want them to get all their information, then have it posted on the website. Here's what's going on for summer. And then it'll be a little easier. So that was one thing we figured could be an efficiency. And the general consensus, Dr. Bernal, is that we start practicing and working on it in February so that we're ready for June. So those were a couple of consensuses. And really, truly educate. We had the Educate, Motivate, Graduate is kind of our thing, as you know, and we really talked to the kids about how this helped them to be better in school, and how when you're doing extracurricular things, and we encourage them to join the band and to go to sports and to become part of the soccer team. And we said, because those kind of activities bring joy and they make life better, and school goes better when you're feeling that kind of joy. So we really did just try to promote the positives. And I think that's my last slide. Anything else? That's it. Any questions for me? All right, I'm gonna let him talk.
All right, so I'm the vice principal at the high school, director of the 22 program for summer SOAR, and this is my second year doing it. And we had go over a little bit about the program itself, its philosophy, and kind of give you some statistics about what happened there. So we have a philosophy that's based on encouragement and hope. That's one of our big themes this year amongst the administrative staff, and trying to build hope in kids. And kids that end up in summer school many times are struggling kids. They don't like being in summer school, so we don't call it summer school, we call it summer SOAR. And we had deep conversations with the staff prior to summer school about promoting success for kids. We want them to come out of summer school feeling like they have been a success, that they can achieve academically. And so we work really, really hard to make sure, and you'll see in our statistics when we get there, that they not only earn credit, but that they feel good about it when it's all over with. So I felt really good about it this summer. So our program, I'm going to go through a few slides and overview the schedule. I'll try to keep it brief. The participation, the number of credits earned, and our recommendation for future summer SOAR programs. So it was a credit retrieval based program. That was a requirement of the money. The money came from an ODE academic support grant and from some federal funds. And they wanted to make sure that we were doing credit retrieval for learning loss that happened most of the time during COVID and stuff. It was held at the high school from July 7th to August 10th. And that was Monday through Thursdays from 8 until noon. That allowed the students and the staff to have some 3-day weekends and have a break and feel like they were having a summer as well. So the next slide is our daily schedule. The students had anywhere from 1 to 4 classes. So most of them had 4 classes. A few only needed 1 or 2. And so we just gave them those. The supports that we had were amazing. And that was important too. For example, the food service provided daily breakfast and lunch to the kids. And I saw way more kids eating during the summer than I do during the normal year, which was kind of interesting. We had a great cook this summer. I wish I could remember her name. She's not usually at the high school, but we went in and she was always working with the kids and just a wonderful, wonderful lady. So we appreciate her. We also had transportation, just like we would during the normal school year. If they live outside of the regular walk zones, we were able to bring everybody by bus, and we got everybody that wanted to go there. We had special education support, very important. In addition to the core teachers, we had a special education teacher and a classroom assistants that could be pushed out into the classrooms to help the students. We had a learning center class. So some of the kids, if they were special ed or needed that extra support, they were given a learning center class to help them be effective and be successful in their other classes. And so they also were in coordination with the parents, communicating with them, letting them know what was going on. So there's lots of communication back and forth there. We also made sure that, we had that social emotional learning support that we need, even for the high school kids. They sometimes hide it. We had a SELA on staff. He's excellent. He met with the students every day, encouraged them, tried to keep them going. We had provided a lot of fun lunch activities during the breaks and stuff, worked on a climate of inclusivity and building a community for our summer SOAR program. We also, if the kid needed school supplies, whatever they need, we wanted to remove those barriers to success. We made sure they got it. So this support was a resource, not only for those kids who were there for credit retrieval, for any kid that was in summer school. They all received the same kinds of supports. So as far as teachers go, we had 6 classroom teachers that taught core classes in everything: math, science, English, social studies. Health and PE were new this summer, and the kids really liked that. It gave them a period where they could get outside. We put the health or the PE classes first thing in the morning while it was still relatively cool outside, and it was actually pretty nice. And surprisingly, a lot of kids, especially ones that don't like PE very much, they end up having to take that over again in their junior, senior year, and they were able to do it in the summer school, and really they all passed. So that was really good. We also had if the student needed a class that wasn't one of the core classes, we were able to use Acellus and a teacher that was dedicated to help them with the Acellus to get those other kinds of classes that are specific for graduation, like an economics or an extra class that we just couldn't offer with the 4 basic core teachers. So we had that as well. We had basically just about anything a student would need. The class sizes averaged about 12 students, which were really nice. We had one class that only had 3 students in it. So our typical student for summer school, all 9 through 12, most of them were off track when they started for their grade level. They have struggled in these classes sometimes more than once. We had a few seniors that walked. We let seniors that only needed 2 or less credits go through the graduation ceremony if they signed up for summer school. And so they were able to complete those 2 credits over summer school and be on track with their class as well. And then we have, students that just needed extra individual support or more time in order to graduate and complete a class. Sometimes, we may only have 12 weeks of classes in a trimester, but student can do the work, but it's going to take them 15 weeks to get it done. So that's the nice thing about summer school. We can give them that extra time that they need to complete a class. And then my final recommendation, future plans for this is that we're going to continue to need some kind of a summer program. I think, we have a lot of kids. We've been able to take basically with this one summer program, 10 classrooms with 28 kids in each one of them, and be able to, I skipped over a slide, I have to go back, but be able to get those out of our regular schedule during the year too. That helps all the other kids so that the teachers are available to teach more options for them. So it really helps that. And I back up a slide. I skipped the student participation slide. So we had 132 students that registered online for summer solar. Out of that, 114 students completed the program. Some of them that did not complete it were students who decided at the last minute they wanted to get a job, or we did have a little bit of COVID effect as well. Some kids got sick and missed half of what would have been half of summer school, so they weren't able to complete it. Credits recovered, 140 full credits. That's 280 half credit classes. That's a lot of classes that were made up over the summer. So average credits earned was 1.38. Remember, not all students had a full 2 credits in their schedule, so that was pretty good. It was a passing rate of 88.8%. And it was a pass, no pass situation. It wasn't a pass fail. It was a pass, no pass. And so we encouraged kids to take chances and to push themselves. And I really felt like they came out of it way ahead. A lot of them felt really good about their chances of graduating. And that's important, that psychological thing. You've got to know you can graduate. And so it turned some of them around, gets them back on track. Now they're as they get older, especially they get more mature, they know they can make it through high school. We don't lose them. So our report cards were posted today and they should be sent out this week.
I realized that I forgot something slightly. It's not one that we paid for, but the Indigenous community working with the ESD did come for 2 weeks to Watonka to do their annual summer camp. And I wanted to share, Dr. Bernal, this is kind of cool. The day that we went and hit our leadership retreat and we talked about hope, I had to go back to Watonka afterwards, and there was a group of the high school age kids sitting out in front of the building. And I went in my office, and my window, I had to open it because it's hot, so we're sitting there and I hear words that are not the greatest and some kind of rough housing and stuff. And I said, hey guys, can you just keep it down a little bit? And that's all I said. And they kind of calmed down. And as I walked out, I said, hey guys, have a great weekend. And one of them said, you have a great weekend too. And so I walked over and I said, hey, what are you guys doing this weekend? And we started talking. And then I said, I have a question. What do you hope for this year? And immediately this young lady said, I hope I graduate. And a boy said, I hope I pass my classes. And another boy said, I hope I get better grades. And so they all shared it. There's about 7 of them. And I said, you know what? I believe you can do it. Absolutely. And I said, you know what I want? You know what I hope? I hope you have fun. I hope you love this school year, because when you have fun, you can do better. And it was a really neat moment. And then they saw me the rest of the camp and they'd be like, hi. And so I love the fact, thank you, Dr. Bernal, for bringing hope this year as part of our focus from the leadership team. So when he said that, it reminded me. And I just wanted to share with you that that is a really neat thing we're bringing in this year. Thank you.
Questions? Any questions, comments? Well, I would just like to say thank you. I know that taking your summer to spearhead these programs and provide these opportunities for kiddos is no easy task. So thank you for doing that. I heard a lot of good things across the board. The enrichment, obviously, given golf and other things, soccer and all that was provided. Like those are the ones that probably heard the most. But I know that the academics obviously is instrumental to getting a lot of these kids across the stage come June. So thank you for your efforts and also all the staff that helped out. Nutrition, transportation. I mean, it's a team effort. So thank you. Can't thank you enough.
We will let them know. Thank you.
All right, our next presentation is on our strategic plan, and we've got, speaking of teams, we've got a team. We've got Dr. Bernal, Ms. Harris, Ms. Hampton, Dr. Merklin, Ms. Bowen, and Ms. Flath.
Well, thank you so much. And it is our pleasure to be able to officially roll out tonight our 2027 North Wasco County School District Strategic Plan. All of you received a copy of this. This document is not live yet because we wanted to do our presentation tonight and kick off our rollout tonight. It'll go live tomorrow on our website, along with many other updates we're working on. But we wanted to present to you tonight kind of the key elements from our strategic plan and also talk about how we are going to ensure that this strategic plan is not something that just sits on a shelf. It's actually a living document that we breathe and work on every single day and is at the forefront of our work. So as you know, this process began back in January, beginning of February. And we engaged many of our stakeholders. We did a lot of surveying to collect data. And then from there, we had a team that worked through the data to then identify what our focus areas would be. We also did work on updating our mission and our vision statements. We also established our equity statement and our core value statements, as well as developing a portrait of a graduate, which is really about what are the soft skills and the other essential skills we believe a graduate leaving us needs to have in order to be successful and of good character out in the world. So we're all going to present and I'm going to hand it over to Stephanie.
Don't mind us shuffling this back and forth. So first, I just wanted to say that I was very honored and excited to take part of this process. I came on board to the district shortly before this whole project began. So I really feel like this is just such a wonderful representation of my first year at the district. And I really look forward to the future and where this plan is going to take us. So without further ado, I get the easiest job of reading all of our wonderful new mission statement, vision statement, and equity statement. The new mission statement for North Wasco County School District is educating each student to the highest standards while motivating them to reach their fullest potential and graduating them to be college, career, and life ready. Our vision statement: our schools are a place where children belong. Each student is known by name, strength, and need, and provided the education and opportunities to achieve success. Next is our equity statement. And I just wanted to share that this is brand new to the district. We did not have a current equity statement, so this is not replacing anything. This is a new addition. North Wasco County School District is committed to the success of each student and staff member in our schools. For that success to occur, the district is committed to equity by recognizing institutional barriers and creating access and opportunities that benefit each student and staff, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, language, abilities, socioeconomic status, country of origin, immigration status, cultural heritage, native language, sexual orientation, gender, and gender identity. We value striving for equity, inclusion, and belonging, celebrating diversity, engaging the community, supporting the whole child, and promoting and achieving academic excellence. Next, we have our portrait of a graduate. This is really what we feel is a representation of a graduate that walks out of the doors of our schools. Curiosity. Graduates will continuously ask questions to better understand themselves and the world around them. Respect. Graduates will treat others kindly and embrace the differences of everyone they meet. Integrity. Graduates will be true to themselves and those around them. Confidence. Graduates will have high expectations for their abilities and strive to achieve their greatest potential. Under skills, we have creative problem solving. Graduates will address obstacles with thoughtful, imaginative, and innovative solutions. Collaboration. Graduates will be able to effectively work and communicate with others, especially those with different backgrounds and experiences from their own. Resilience. Graduates will be prepared to tackle challenges and adapt to change effectively. Initiative. Graduates will be productive, active members of their communities. And last but not least, critical thinking. Graduates will use clear, unbiased, and analytical thinking when making decisions.
And on that note, I am going to turn it over for our first priority area, student experience.
So from a lot of the data we collected and then in conversation in our group that worked throughout the focus, throughout the strategic plan, one of the things that rose to the top was the need to make sure our student voice was represented in just about everything we do. And also really thinking about student experience. What do they experience every day in our schools, and not just in our schools, but in our community and out in the greater world. So we have two goals under our student experience: create learning environments where students feel they belong and staff knows students by name, strength, and need. And to improve the North Wasco County School District cultural competency to develop empathy and understanding so student needs are met and they have the support to achieve success. Some of the benchmarks that we'll be utilizing to measure our success as we work towards achieving these goals are superintendent school visits. So collecting observational data through my visits out at schools. Increased response rates and positive analytics on student, family, and staff climate surveys, diverse and equitable student representation on our district-wide equity committee, and improved student success data by subgroup. So for example, our graduation rates, our behavior data, our attendance data, and our academic progress.
Hi. Amy and I will be sharing this one. And I just wanted to say, as someone who came late to this process, but who has gone through this kind of process before elsewhere, I was just really impressed with the level of thoughtfulness and intention and dedication that this, I think, clearly shows. So for teaching and learning, our goals are to develop a district-wide culture of high expectations and the belief that every child can succeed. Align curriculum, instruction, and assessment strategies and practices to ensure consistency across schools, and implement a district-wide approach to intervention and support using evidence-based frameworks.
We will know if we've achieved those goals when we are able to see increased graduation rates, participation in advanced coursework, AP courses, language, dual enrollment programs, and the disaggregated by student group that's increased. Participation in our CTE pathways, also looking at disaggregated by student group, will be increased. We'll see a decrease in suspension and expulsion rates. We'll see an increase in students meeting or exceeding proficiency on state assessments. Our third grade ELA proficiency rates will increase, and our ninth grade algebra passing rates will increase as well. And then we're looking for a decrease in unnecessary referrals for special education services. I'm back. The next priority area is community engagement. Our goals are to position North Wasco County Schools at the heart and the hub of the Dallas community, to ensure each cultural group feels welcomed, valued, and included, and to deepen the ties with the community so that North Wasco County School District is the most trusted and transparent public entity in the Dalles. Our benchmarks for success will be increased community partnerships and participation in community events, functions, and meetings, increased culturally representative educational programs offered in the district, the creation of new and effective website, which is already up, and parent communications tools, which is underway. We'll say that. Increased community attendance in district functions and meetings, and increased student participation in career readiness internship opportunities provided by local businesses, organizations, and community partners.
Excellent. The next priority area is staffing, and we have 3 goals. So first, receive multiple highly qualified, diverse applicants for every job opening. Number 2, recruit and retain staff whose demographics reflect the diversity of our student population. And number 3, ensure each staff member, regardless of location or department, feels supported and proud to work for North Wasco County School District. The benchmarks for success will include applicant demographics, staff retention rate, staff demographics, staff climate survey, attendance at community building events for staff, and participation in mentorship programs by new and longtime staff.
Way on the other side. Stay tuned.
Well, she's agreed to just hold this for me, so I'm a princess today. So priority area is facilities. We know we have some work to do and we're ambitious to get this done. The overarching goal is to create learning environments that are safe, ADA compliant, welcoming to staff, and open to the broader community. Our benchmarks for success, which are not necessarily all short-term, but there are goals and benchmarks that we will work on. Of course, the school bond passing would be a phenomenal step. ADA compliant facilities, completed priority facilities projects, and increased community use of district space.
So that's the abbreviated version. And then you get to this at the back of the actual strategic plan, which is really the meat of the plan, because it then breaks down by each focus area, the actual action steps that we're going to take in order to achieve each of these lofty goals we've set. And really, we all need to begin thinking of this as a 5-year plan, because when you start to look at all the action steps, it becomes a little overwhelming. Like, how are we going to do that? So we had a 2-day leadership retreat with our entire leadership team. And over the course of those 2 days, we dug into the actual action plan. And we had some guiding questions. We broke out into different groups, and we had guiding questions about what our year 1 priorities should be. So yes, this is a 5-year plan, but let's start thinking just about year 1, which starts now. So one of the questions we had was, how will we achieve each of these priority action steps that we identify in year 1? What are the needs that we have to achieve and support these priority action steps? Who's going to take the lead on each of these priority action steps? And then what role do our site leaders have in accomplishing and supporting the identified priority action steps? And lastly, how do we communicate the year 1 priority action steps to our staff, keep it at the forefront of our work, and also keep it at the forefront of our community and the families that we serve? So we spent a good chunk of time on day 1 and day 2 of our leadership retreat, and we have identified our year 1 priorities. But for purposes of tonight, we just wanted to roll out the initial plan, and we will be bringing back to you at the September board meeting our year 1 priorities for each focus area. Are there any questions about the strategic plan, the process, the completed product?
Questions or comments?
Tomorrow or tonight. It can go live tonight. Stephanie will be working on all those updates, updating our mission, vision statement on the website. We will, this will be now available live on the website so anybody can access it. And yeah, now we're waiting for tonight to roll it out.
I just want to thank everyone for their hard work. It's been a long time needed, not coming, but needed. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I just have a few more things to add. In front of you is kind of a box of goodies, and this was from our leadership retreat. All of our staff at the leadership retreat received this. And a lot of what's in there is the work we're engaging in this year. There's a book in there specifically called The School of Hope. And that is a central theme for all of us this year is hope. And how do we instill hope in our children and our families? And then just a couple other fun little books in there. There's a book in there by Simon Sinek. You know, I love him. And then in the bag, I mean, if you have kids, like just hand that to them and they will take it from there. It seems silly, but at the leadership retreat, there's like that little snap it thing and there's Play-Doh. And I mean, I learned all kinds of things about our staff during that meeting. I was like, and for instance, Mr. Vieira is very talented with Play-Doh. And like started taking other people's Play-Doh to design amazing things that Cindy's grandchildren inherited. And then those little pop-it things, like people had those out and we're popping those things. And, you know, you learn a lot of interesting things with fun bags. But if you have kids, just hand them the bag. They will love you and you will be their hero. And then lastly, I just want to make sure that I thank everybody. You know, it really does take a village to get school up and going. We start next week, and there's been a lot of hard work going on this month to be day one ready. So we're excited. We're excited for the rollout of our strategic plan, and we're excited to get all these action steps that we've identified for this year, the priorities, rolling.
I have one thing to add. Actually, a comment. Thank you, Dr. Bernal. You and I both started here at about the same time. 1 year anniversary here. I want to say that when I first found out coming onto the board that District 9 and 12 joined to make District 21, they had never had a strategic plan. And you discovered that quickly. I feel like it's a common sense idea there. And like, without saying too much, just I appreciate you bringing common sense into District 21. So thank you, and thank Kara too.
I was on the committee that worked on this as a board member. And I just want to emphasize to the board members that weren't on that, the number of thoughts that were volleyed back and forth, debated, talked about, molded, subtracted, added. It was, I mean, over the course of time, it was incredible. And then just organizing all of the results into this, it's a huge piece of work. So I'll just repeat, thank you so much for getting this going, Superintendent Bernal, and bringing it to a glorious new beginning, really.
Yeah, I'd echo the same thing, that thanks for everyone's hard work on this. I know that it was kind of one of those long time coming type things. And I did like on the mission statement, I picked how educate, motivate, graduate was weaved into there. So whoever did that, kudos, bless you. But I did like that because that's the one part that I can remember and rattle off like an elevator speech. So that it's in there. Now I can add the other words. But truly, I mean, I think this will get us kind of aligned in a path forward. You know, I think we've been doing great things as a district, but now I think we can all unify behind set goals, even as a board, that align and hopefully that we end up checking off all of those action items here in 2027. So thank you. And we look forward to all the hard work that we've got to do.
I'll just add that if you're looking for catchwords in the vision, it's name, strength, and need. To know each student by name, strength, and need. Okay.
Noted.
All right. Thank you so much.
Different question. All right. So our next report comes from Dr. Bernal, our superintendent report.
Thank you. So we're starting school next week. We're really excited. And part of starting school next week means we're still required to have COVID management plan because COVID's still here, hasn't gone away. So school begins next week, August 29th for grades 1 through 5, and then 6th and 9th grade have orientation day. And then Tuesday, August 30th, we'll welcome back the rest of our students, kindergarten, 7th, 8th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Our first week of school, our K-5 kids will be on an early release. They'll be getting out at 12:30 each day. And there was some intentionality behind why we structured the week that way. As you know, we have just adopted an English language arts curriculum that all of our teachers, our language arts teachers will be implementing. There's quite a bit of planning that needs to go into that. So part of that release time will be providing support to our teaching staff to work on all of learning. As I said, COVID is still ever present. And in order to ensure our students have access to full-time in-person learning all year, we are still going to be managing COVID every day. Next slide. So we are required by the state to have a COVID management plan. This year it's a little different. Instead of a district-wide plan, every school is required to have an individual COVID management plan. So each school does have one. And most of how we will manage, it describes how we'll manage to COVID and respond to outbreaks. Most of what we're doing now, though, is at the local level decision-making. So we get to make kind of our own decisions about how we manage and respond to COVID. And we will often consult with our local health department to advise us if there's anything that we're seeing out there that's unusual. With that said, there are certain parts of the COVID management plan that are still required. The district is still required to have a communicable disease plan, which we do have. We're still required to have measures for how we will exclude students and or staff. We are required still to have isolation spaces at all of our campuses and district buildings. We're required to have the educator vaccination in place. And then we are required to have an emergency operations plan. Next slide. Parts of the COVID management plan has to include how we will center equity in the work that we do. Each school site plan must include plans and responses for ensuring that those most disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 are provided adequate supports to be successful in school. So to that end, each school has part of their school site's COVID management plan, a separate student and staff health and well-being plan to support an inclusive and holistic approach to protect access to in-person learning. And we shared those with you earlier this week for each school site. Next slide. Also, each school site plan must include how we will respond and support student and staff well-being and mental health, and during prevention and response and recovery from incidents of COVID-19. So with that, schools have been encouraged to continue to prioritize cultivating care, connection, and community to support the mental, emotional, and social health and well-being of students, families, staff, and administrators. So included in those individual school site plans are supports that will be in place for that. Next slide. Face coverings are no longer a requirement in schools, except for there's two places where we would require a face covering, and I'll talk about those later in this presentation. But we want to make sure that everyone knows that D21 supports any employee or student's choice to wear a face covering at school or in the workplace at any given time. We will continue to have disposable face coverings available at all district school sites and properties. Next slide. Screening for COVID, D21 does expect each employee and family to self-screen themselves or their student for primary COVID symptoms prior to arriving to any school site or district property. As a reminder, primary symptoms include cough, fever greater than 100.4, or chills, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, or new loss of taste or smell. And more recently, with the most recent variant, apparently sore throat. If an individual is exhibiting any of the primary symptoms, we do ask that you stay home or keep your student home. Next slide. Isolation. Each school does have a designated isolation room where students who become symptomatic will be isolated until an adult can pick them up. And then in addition, there will be a separate place for other issues that often arise in school, such as injuries, and they will be treated in a separate area of the office and or other designated area, which is separate from the isolation room. Next slide. The test to stay programming has been eliminated for the 2022-2023 school year. And part of that is because, well, a couple of factors. We're no longer required to report positive cases nor exposures. And in addition, the requirement to quarantine if you've been exposed has gone away. So therefore, test to stay no longer really applies. But we will continue to offer diagnostic testing for those who need it and or request it. So for example, if an individual who becomes symptomatic at school and does have an approved testing form on file, we could test them there, or we can also send a test home with the individual to test at home with their family. Next slide. We'll continue to focus on airflow and circulation in all of our buildings. Our HVAC systems have been set to maximize outdoor ventilation of clean air into indoor spaces. Each classroom does have 2 PUA, which are our air purifiers, that will be required to be on each day of instruction. Doors and windows will be open where ventilation is insufficient, unless doing so creates a health or safety risk. And then activities, meals, and classes, we encourage to take place outside as often as possible and when reasonable. Next slide. Physical distancing, no longer a requirement. Remember, we went from 6 feet to 3 feet, and now there's no requirement. However, we are still want to make sure that classrooms do have seating charts and our rosters are maintained in case we do have an increased outbreak. And if we have to communicate with our public health department on any of those issues, we can at least track the cases as they occur wherever the outbreak is. Having multiple entrance and exits available to maximize the use of our exterior doors and limit the congregation of students. And then arrange and assign seating to maximize distancing. Even though it's no longer a requirement, it's still encouraged, but it is not required. Next slide. Hand washing will still be highly encouraged. All students will have access to hand washing prior to breakfast and lunch. They'll have frequent opportunities to hand wash throughout the day. And where we're unable to provide hand washing, we will have hand sanitizer available. Next slide. We will continue to clean and disinfect frequently. Our frequently touched surfaces such as doors, handles, sink handles, drinking fountains, our transportation vehicles. So our custodians are on schedules that have them rotating throughout the day, often to clean all of our high touch areas. Maintaining clean and disinfected environments, including classrooms, cafeteria settings, and restrooms. And providing time for the cleaning and disinfecting of our high-touch surfaces between multiple student uses. Next slide. So here's how it might look how it will look this year. If a student or a staff member tests positive for COVID, regardless of vaccination status, they will need to isolate for 5 days. Day 0 is considered the first day you become symptomatic. The individual or student may return to school or the workplace once their symptoms have improved and the individual no longer has a fever without the use of fever-reducing medication and or if no symptoms develop. And then the individual must wear a face covering for the remainder of the 10 days remaining since the first day symptoms began. Next slide. COVID exposure, regardless of vaccination status. The student or staff member, if you're exposed, they no longer need to quarantine. However, they will need to wear a mask for 10 days after that exposure and monitor for symptoms. And then if possible, test on day 5. And if any symptoms begin during that 10-day period, to stay home. Notifications to families, because we are no longer required to report positive cases or exposures and aren't doing the contact tracing. We will no longer maintain and update a COVID dashboard on the district website. However, and in collaboration with our local public health department, we will notify our school community when a school reports at the school-wide level if we have at least 10 students and staff absent due to positive COVID cases, or at the classroom level if we have 3 students and staff absent due to positive cases. In the event of high community and or school COVID cases, we will work closely with the North Central Public Health Department to consider any additional mitigation measures that might need to be considered, such as closure of a classroom, a school, or a return to face coverings. Next slide. So the message is common sense for COVID-19, common sense and safety. And really, we need everyone's help and support to please keep your student home if you're not feeling well or are exhibiting symptoms of COVID-19. Please contact your student's office to inform us of any positive or presumed cases of COVID-19 in your home. And definitely please reach out to your student's school with any questions or concerns as it relates to COVID-19 assistance, or they can also visit our website for more information. Any questions about COVID-19 management plans this year, how we will be managing COVID?
Questions from anyone or comments?
One, is the board going to be apprised of like any kind of cases in the schools? You know, what kind of information is the board going to get?
When we notify community and or families, as noted in the school-wide, if we're seeing a high rise of cases, so if we have 10 or more students and staff that are sick with COVID in a school and or in a classroom, those are the notifications that we will send out to families. And then what I can do is on a weekly basis in my Friday updates, I can update the board.
Other questions? All right. Anything else, Dr. Bernal?
No, I will just say we're really excited about school next week and ready to see the kids.
Right on. Next report is our Chief Financial Officer report, Ms. Flath.
Oh, that was really loud. So I didn't complete a financial write-up this month because I was so excited about the budget report that I needed to finish up quickly. I will just add, it does not have everything that my brain anticipated. So I think I'll do a different one for fiscal year end when we wrap it up and add that stuff then. So I'll go into that in a minute. But I also, as I was sitting here and we were talking about facilities, I didn't even bother to finish the bond update for this last month. So we had a meeting or two and had some discussions. We're really waiting on, I'll just give a verbal update real quick, but waiting on some final taxable value information and data to do some polling with our public relations firm that is assisting us. So we'd like to have the most accurate information when we do that polling and get a gauge of what the community thinks. So we do still tentatively have a September schedule for our community bond meeting, where we'll pull in the same players we had in the May meeting. So certainly if that's something you're interested in, let me know. Otherwise, I will get a written report out on our website so you can read anything. We do meet every 2 weeks with our general group. Just haven't made a lot of progress with waiting on some data. But as far as financials, we're just getting started into this next fiscal year. So I don't have any real data to give you yet after we process our September payroll where we hire all the teachers. all the staff that return to school, we then start to see what the numbers really look like. At that point, should line up really close to where our budget is because we budget for all the positions we hire with few exceptions. But going through just quickly on the probably third page in is the basic roll up. That's usually what you see on your financial. The ending fund balance tentatively for general fund is at 906,000. Just pointing out, last year we ended the year with 404,000, and these are not final. We still have final things to go through and clear up on our books, so to say. So our fund balance is double what it was last year. It's still not as high as, of course, I'd love to see them always higher, but not in a bad position considering everything. You do see state special revenues negative. Again, it's just waiting on all the grant payments. There's always a delay. And that will be cleaned up before year end. I do want to go on a happy note that nutrition services is actually at a positive 282,000. And mind you, last year we ended at 79,000. Year before it was a negative 4,000. So excited to see that. And part of that is some of the waivers gave us higher meal count rates and pros and cons. One of the pros of having Sodexo company or a management company coming in, we have a set fee per meal. So even if their costs go up, our meal costs do not. So I would not want to be in their shoes right now with the food costs up easily 25%, but they're good partners and still getting the food. And there is still a shortage. And that's why if you have kids in school, you'll see fluctuating menus week to week because we don't always have the right supply chain. There are some waivers continuing this year, not a lot, but we'll hope to get back to what a new normal will be in nutrition. Replacement funds, that also includes both bus and the curriculum replacement. We did pay for a good chunk of that. I will say, and I'll get this on the next report, the English language adoption curriculum was a little over 825,000. So not a small chunk of change. The next curriculum adoption is math, which I think is the second most expensive one. So it's really nice to plan ahead for those two back to back. So have those to look forward to. That's still another year out, a year plus out. So we have some time to plan for that. Including in that, just to remind everyone, we took on the Sherman County transportation this year. So we're getting that started. We do have 5 buses in our now Sherman County outpost. They are on loan. So we're paying those off on a 3-year, which is coincidental with the agreement with Sherman County. So we're excited to get that going. We are fully staffed over there. We could use more substitutes, but she's the transportation director is feeling pretty good because we're at a good, knock on wood, staffing point at this point. So that's good news. Other than that, holding steady, not a whole lot. There's a lot of things happening, but you could read about a lot of them in this fabulous thing. But any questions about this? I know someday I'm going to have a lot of questions because you guys are going to learn all of it, right? Let's hope.
Questions from Ms. Flott?
I'll just quickly go over this next one. So normally you all would get the big book binder. I'm opting not to do that because I think it just sits on someone's shelf somewhere. I have looked at what other school districts usually produce as their budget documents. And I do put at the end of this, if the level of detail you used to get in that big binder, if you really did read through it all and you want that level, I have it easily accessible. It's all rolled up. So I tried to make it in something that's comparable and something that might mean something. So I'm sure you read it all, but there are a few things I adjusted in this write-up. One, I didn't forget who's in what position, so I did correct that. That's what happens when you reuse documents. So I fixed who the chair and vice chair was and gave that. And in the back section, the one that'll be posted on the website does have an update from our technology director, Stan Felderman, who's also he works at Columbia Gorge GSD, but he's part of our local service plan dollars. And he services, him and his group services all of our IT needs. They do a fabulous job. And I just wanted to be able to include all the things, which include the camera projects that they've been doing this last year. And there's a lot more things coming with insurance and cybersecurity coverage, liability. And the rules are coming in a little more each year, which is to be understood, but we wouldn't get insurance coverage if we don't continue to move in that direction. So a lot of information. If you want more or less, or you're curious if there's something more, do let me know on or offline. And I'm available if you have questions.
All right, any questions? All right, well, thank you. Our final report tonight is our board attorney report. Any updates, Mr. Corey?
Follow up on the MCC.
Thank you for that update. All right, so that concludes our reports. We'll move on to our discussion and action items. First one up is the approval of 10 additional slots for resident student releases. And Dr. Bernal will speak to that.
Yeah, so we earlier in the 21-22 school year, we had you approve both number of slots available for students and families requesting to come to our district and also slots asking to leave our district. And we approved 20 slots on each side. This year, we have had a few more than the 20 spot limit that we have out of our district request out. I have reviewed each of those requests. They are reasonable requests. They are based on either parent employment in another district. Also, instances where a family has relocated here, but their child is in high school and has always gone to the district where they came from. So requesting to finish their high school experience at the school where they came from. They're all very reasonable requests. So we're asking to add an additional 10 slots just to cover us for the 22-23 school year. My understanding is that prior to COVID, we actually always established 30 slots on each side. But then COVID happened, so then it was reduced. So probably moving forward in future years, we will bring back the request for 30 slots on each side. So we're just asking to approve the 10 additional resident slots to be released to another district. We don't have 10, but we have more than 20.
For the explanation, any questions regarding what Dr. Bernal just covered? If not, then I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I make motion to, I move to grant 10 additional resident slots for students to request to be released to attend another school district in Oregon, starting the 22-23 school year, with the understanding that all consent is district policy and administrative rule.
All right, and do I have a second? All right, so we've got a motion by Director Nelson to grant the 10 additional resident slots for students to request to be released to attend another school district in Oregon starting the 22-23 school year, with the understanding that all consent is subject to district policy and administrative rule. Seconded by Director Lopez. Any additional discussion, comments, or questions? Not seeing none, then we'll move to a vote. Director Lopez.
Aye.
Thanks. Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Nelson.
Aye.
Director Stevens.
Aye.
Director Richardson. Chair votes aye as well. All right, our next action item is the approval of the adult meal rates, and Ms. Flath.
Hello, so it's one of the requirements of the National School Lunch Program federally and in Oregon is that we have to establish a benchmark equivalency rate for adult meals, and adult meals would be generally staff that eat at the cafeteria when they come in or parents. We are CEP, and because of that, we also have other guidelines. That doesn't mean that's why this was coming in. I'm just reminding that students do eat for free because of that, but adults do not. So one of the requirements to maintain our National School Lunch Program guidelines, and I just included a bunch of verbiage around it if you really wanted to read the federal requirements, in case you're bored. But the minimum is $4.01. We are asking to move that to $4.05 because we do not want to have to keep pennies jiggling around there's surprisingly a large amount of cash. So 405 would make sense. Currently, our meal rates are $3.65, and it looks like last year we should have been at $3.68, but all we can do is fix it from here. So we're requesting $4.05 and approval to do that.
All right, any Adam? All right, if nothing, then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the adult meal rate at $4.05 effective this 2022-23 school year.
All right. All right, so we've got a motion by Director Stevens to approve the adult meal rate at $4.05 effective for the 22-23 school year, seconded by Director Jones. Any additional comments, questions, discussion? Not seeing. Then we'll move to a vote. Director Lopez. Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Nelson.
Aye.
Director Richardson. Chair votes aye as well. We're going to continue with Ms. Flath. Next one is the approval of surplusing computer equipment.
Hello, this one, I don't know that technically I need to bring this to the board for approval, but I always prefer to be transparent and have this information out there. You did approve the change out of the high school computer lab, and that has been done. There are computers that are still usable. However, they will have literally nothing on them. They won't have a Windows or anything, but we believe we can sell them for up to $30 a computer. There are a total of 30, but we may repurpose some of those. So that's why I say up to 30, but we will get these on the website to sell, and just looking for approval to sell up to 30.
We wanted to clarify just the amount because in the paper it says 300. Is it 300 or 30 per device?
We're estimating it's 300 per computer. So 300 for all 30 could be up to $9,000, but
okay.
But we're not sure that we want to sell all of them, nor are we sure that $300 is what people would actually pay. So when I asked for the action, it's just we want to sell them. We estimate their worth here, and so we'll sell them for the best price possible that we can get, but up to 30 computers. So that's why I left it kind of vague, because we estimate the value, but doesn't mean we'll get that.
Okay. Any other comments, questions regarding this item? All right, seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I move.
Second.
All right, so we've got a motion by Director Lopez to surplus up to 30 computers at the Dallas High School and approve the district be authorized to sell the computers for the best price possible, and seconded by Director Jones. Any further questions or comments? No. And we'll go to a vote. Director Lopez. Director Jones.
Aye.
Nelson. Director Stevens.
Aye.
Director Richardson.
Aye.
Well. All right, our next item is the approval of a purchase of a sports press box. So Ms. Flath.
Hello, I want to make sure I wasn't going to ding at everybody. The current crow's nest at the Sid White Field is a little wobbly. We understand that it needs repair. And so we'd like to come up with a temporary option. This one is kind of a changing scope thing because we were sure that the vendor had this available and ready to ship. I'm not sure that they do now. So we're looking at something at least temporary. I believe the athletic director was given plans for something more long-term. There's probably a lot of options out there. We know the football season is literally right around the corner. The crow's nest is not safe for people to be in. We do not want to have, while it's high up and it's helpful, we don't want to have an incident. So we think it's better to be safe and be a little less comfortable than it is to be unsafe. So we will figure out a temporary solution, just looking for, at this point, I'm going to ask for 37,000 for some version of something that will work for both the home team and the opposing team. So coming up with options.
Right, any questions or comments regarding this item? The only thing I had, and I'm not looking really for an answer, I just want to make sure that we're thinking or being cognizant of power and data. I appreciate, local radio station KODL actually putting Riverhawk Athletics. So I just want to make sure that they're still going to be in the mix. And in general, I think this is super awesome, at least a portable concept, only because I think that opens up the possibilities for other sports outside of football, like soccer and other things, to be able to have kind of the same capability to film games and have that information for our kiddos. So I think this is awesome. Sad to see the Nest go, but I understand that it's unsafe. So any other comments, questions?
So this is, I just want to make sure I understand. So this is just for this year, correct? It's portable. So we would be approving 37,000 to use it for 1 year, 1 school year.
And no, that's not our plan. Our plan was to have something that works for this year that would work at other alternative locations, whether it's our soccer fields or maybe down here at the middle school. That's why the portable section was appealing. Long-term, we'd like something larger and something that fits more people, because we do realize there's quite a few, and we did work with Mr. Wynn at the radio and let him know we will make sure he has a spot. But we no, this wouldn't, I don't want an investment. That's a one and done. We may have to do scaffolding or something if this isn't available, but we won't spend that much money on just a 1 year thing. It would have to be something used somewhere else and has a purpose.
Any other questions? If not, then I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I move to approve CFO to be authorized to spend up to 37,000 for a sport announcing stand.
All right, so I've got a motion by Director Stevens to approve the CFO to be authorized to spend up to $37,000 for a sport announcing stand, and seconded by Director Jones. Any further discussion on this item? Director Richardson?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Director Richardson. Oh.
No, we were looking at 2 different sports stands. One is 37,000, and that's the one in this picture. We're looking at possibly another one that's 17,000 to be on the opposing side. That one technically is under my spending limit of 25,000, but the other one would not be. So it's possible we may purchase both. This one exceeds my authorized limit.
My question is, does that include the cost of demolition and removal of the old crow's nest, or is that a separate line item?
That would be separate and something we're still working on, whether we have the internal resources to do that.
All right, any other further discussion? Okay, then we will move to a vote. Director Lopez. Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Nelson. Director Stevens.
Aye.
Director Richardson. Chair votes aye as well. All right, thank you, Ms. Claff. Okay, that concludes our action items for tonight. We'll move on to first reading on school board policies. We have policy GBEA, workplace harassment. And so on this one, the legal references for the for the policy are being updated to reflect an assigned statute number to what is House Bill 3041 from the 2021 legislative session. That modified Oregon's definition of sexual orientation and added a definition for gender identity. These definitions apply to a host of Oregon statutes, including its use in ORS 659A.370. House Bill 3041 is now numbered ORS 659A.370 and ORS 174.100. And it's the home for definitions of sexual orientation and gender identity, which both used in this reference policy. So when you look at your policy for this one, literally the only thing that is changing is on the final page, just under the legal references to align with the statute numbers for that House bill. Any questions on that one? We'll see it again in September for the second reading and approval. Okay. Next policy that we have is policy IGBAF, special education, individualized education program. So at the December 2021 meeting, the State Board of Education updated temporary rule OER 581-015-2229, individualized COVID-19 recovery services. The OER required IEP teams for eligible student to make decisions about individualized COVID-19 recovery services, which support the district's requirement to ensure a free, appropriate public education to eligible students. And so you'll notice on the actual AR that's coming up, the lengthy COVID section on the policy, it's updating the legal references on that one, which brings me to the associated AR. And so that one has the full section, that entire blue font portion, which is numbered number 6 in there. And so that full section gets inserted in there. Any questions on that or comments? If there's none tonight, if there is any, please email those so that we can make those updates ahead of the second reading in our September meeting. All right, that concludes our first readings. So tonight we have one policy for a second reading. That is policy IIBGA, electronic communication system. And some just minor changes, updating definitions of electronic communications and things like social media being added to the language in there. Any questions on those updates or comments? If none, then I will entertain a motion for approval and adoption. Any takers?
So move to approve and adopt H.
Double I.
IIBGA, electronic communication system.
All right, do I have a second? All right, so I got a motion by Director Nelson to approve policy IIBGA, electronic communication system as presented, seconded by Director Richardson. Any further discussion on that? All right, then we'll move to a vote. Director Lopez. Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Nelson.
Aye.
Director Stevens.
Aye.
Director Richardson.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right, let's see, that brings us to our final item for the night, which is comments from the audience about non-agenda items. And do we have any folks that signed up? Nope. So we don't have any Any signed up for tonight? We did receive a number of written comments. There's quite a few of them. So I will read name of those that submitted. All of them were comments or questions around the most recent AR for policy JB, which is a transgender and gender nonconforming students. AR, so we received a comment from Cole Goodwin, Ross Rosette, David Clear, Aaron, Lisa House, Alan Repsland, Jennifer Lacefield, Paul Bulkey, Michael Halloran, Sean Girdham, and lastly, Marcia Wynn. The full text of all those will be included within the meeting minutes that we will review and adopt at our September meeting. All right. With that, we'll wrap up and wish everyone a successful 22-23 school year. And we can't wait to see kiddos back in our buildings starting Monday. Thank you, everyone. Meeting is adjourned.